Hi everybody, I'm Brooke Troutman, the Social Sciences Librarian here at UT Arlington and UT Arlington Libraries. Today I'm going to go through and show you the library website, the course guide that I've made for the policy course, and I'm going to do a little demo for you down the road on how to find resources for your policy analysis paper. So I wanted to start us off on the library homepage so that you know how to access these resources from the homepage and not just the guide that I've created. So I'm going to show you my guide, but I'm going to show you how to access it from the home base of the library website. So this is the library website, and everything that you're going to need for this is going to be off on the left-hand side here. So to find my course guide, you're going to want to go to Research by Subject. And the easiest way to go ahead and find the guide that I've created, and here's my picture here, but is to just go by owner. If you can remember my name, Brooke Troutman, then you are good to go. So go ahead and scroll down to my name here, and these are all of my different research guides that I have created, and then you'll just need to find the one for the policy class, which is easy to find. Social Work 3303, 5303, Social Welfare Policy and Services, and go ahead and click on that. So this is the website, essentially, or research guide that I've created for this class, and to help you guys with all of your resources, finding sources, evaluating sources, and any other things that you might need to know. So the first landing page is just a little bit of introduction and also has all of my contact information over here. So if you need to get in touch with me or you'd like to make an appointment with me to go over how to find these sources, this is how you find me. So I'm going to go through the guide really quickly just so you guys are orientated with what is on here to help you. So the first tab, Getting Started, I have a bunch of tutorial videos that I urge you to watch on your own, talking about types of articles, mind mapping. There's also a concept mapping exercise, types of information, and types of sources. And this is really just informational for you if you're feeling like you're not really sure what types of articles and sources, what's the difference between them, and how to really get started with the thought process for writing this policy analysis paper. Then we have the Finding Sources tab, and I start off here, and I will go through these one by one. I start off here with Finding Federal Documents. So this is one of the three types of sources that you're going to need to write this policy analysis paper. And I believe Dr. Kilgore mentioned this previously in this video, that those are the three essential types of sources you'll need. So I will go through this in a moment to show you guys the different government websites to find the government documents, and the reliable public data as well can also be found here. And then we also have library resources for finding background on policy. So these are library databases that you can go out and find some background information on policy if you're unable to find them in the government websites. I list a lot of them here that can be really, really useful and helpful, and there's even a tutorial video on how to use one of them if it is something that you're not familiar with. I also list newspapers as well. You can find historical data about your policy and about the social issues of the time that you're choosing to do this paper on. So newspaper articles can be very, very helpful. So I list our databases for newspapers there. And then I have a list of what I think is pertinent databases for this assignment, and I'm going to do a demo here in just a few minutes about how to find some of your scholarly pieces that you will need for your resources. And then down at the bottom I have the Encyclopedia of Social Work, which I always stick in there because I find it as a handy resource. So then scrolling back up to the top, I have Evaluating Sources, which this is just a basic guide on how to evaluate sources once you have them, especially sources that are non-academic sources or non-scholarly sources. You want to make sure that you still have reliable sources that are current, relevant, authoritative, accurate, and serve the purpose for your paper. So this is just a little guide on how to do that. And then a little video about avoiding plagiarism. I won't go into depth on that, so I'll let you guys do that on your own. Then I have additional helpful resources, some different tutorials that I've done, and a little bit about APA format. But Dr. Kilgore is going to go over APA format later in this video, but this is just a little bit of a cheat sheet just there for you guys. And then last but not least, my contact information again. So you should always know where to find me and how to get in touch so I can help you with this policy analysis paper. So I'm going to go back to the Home tab, and to go back to the main library site, all you have to do is click UTA Libraries, and you're right here back at the home page. Okay, everybody, now we're going to go and I'm going to show you guys a lot of the government document websites and places to find your actual policy itself, any backup information as far as government documents, and also find that reliable public data. So I have a bunch of links here on my guide, and then I also have one that I'm going to demo that I've brought up that's on outside of this guide. So we'll go to Getting Started, and this is where you would kind of get ready to kind of do that research part. And then we're going to go to Finding Sources. So this I've listed as many as possible, and I'm continually adding to this list. But these are government and federal websites that are for different types of policies, different social issues, different sections of the government. So you see there's the catalog of federal domestic assistance. We have benefits.gov, congress.gov, which is probably the most handy for actually finding policies. USA.gov, government benefits, grants, and financial aid. US or catalog of US government publications. Homeland Security Digital Library, which is actually a database that UTA Libraries has acquired in the past year that is very extensive, and I list here all the different topics and resources that you can find within that database. HathiTrust, which is essentially a digital library shared by top 10 universities, where they record government documents, but also older collections of information as far as books and data sets and things of that nature. So it can be somewhat helpful. It's not necessarily a government site, but it can be helpful to find things on there. There's also the Federal Digital System, USA.gov, and HUD.gov, which is the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So I'm going to go back up to Congress.gov. This is the best place I feel to actually find policy, especially if you haven't really decided and like honed in on your actual policy itself. Say you have a social problem that you're thinking that you would like to do an analysis on, but you don't really have a policy set in place. You can do some searching in here to try to find different policies that have been enacted over the years that would cover. So it says examples here, things like healthcare. Now, you're probably going to come up with the Affordable Care Act. And as Dr. Kilgore said, you're not going to want to do the entire policy, but I've had students in the past do sections of that because they have a specific social problem, whether it's mental health or the elderly or Medicaid, Medicare, which are different sections of the Affordable Care Act. And so we can find those specific sections of that policy in here and pull that out and use that for your policy analysis. So this is the best website, I would say. It's reliable public data, it's government documents, and you can find the actual laws themselves. Now be wary in here, you're going to find a lot of the legal jargon that Dr. Kilgore talked about, so it can be a little bit confusing, so you have to kind of hone in what you're really trying to find on here. And if you need help, I'm always here to help find stuff like this, because I know this can be the most confusing part. Okay. All right, so that's the Congress.gov. There's also benefits.gov, which is also really great. So if you want to discover or talk about a policy that has to do with different benefits that are offered to, on the federal level or to the citizens of Texas, whether it be something for like Medicaid, or say we have Texas Comprehensive Energy Assistance Program, the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, or SNAP, which is like the replacement for food stamps, which I know some students have done analysis on. This is where you're going to find those policies, and this is where you're also going to find that reliable public data and kind of historical background for those types of things. This works similar to a database, similar to the other one, although it's not as complicated as the Congress.gov. It's a little more user-friendly, as you can see. So if you're looking for something that has to related to schools with children, or something that's related to, like you said, like nutrition assistance, it's pretty easy to go ahead and click on that. You can click on category here, and if you have your social issue in mind, you usually can scroll down and find something related to that. And say right here, food and nutrition, and you can read on the different programs that are in place here, and they start from the very beginning. So they start with Alabama and Alaska, and they go down alphabetical. So if you want to do Texas, you're going to have to scroll down to Texas, or if you're wanting to do another state, or if you're wanting to do nationwide, which I'm going to demo the National School Lunch Program, which would be technically in here. I'm going to do that in here in a few minutes. So this is where you would come to do all of that. So I'm going to go back to the main page. So you can also go by state here. So if you just want to scroll down to Texas, if you have a specific one here in Texas, this is great. So this is going to list all of the programs here in Texas. So they have a National School Breakfast and Lunch Program for Texas. So if you want to do just for Texas instead of nationwide, this is where you would come and find that policy. So this lists it here. It lists the program descriptions, the general program requirements, and a little bit more about it. And it lists different benefits over here. So this is a very handy resource. And like I said, I find it very user-friendly. And then you can also do by agency. So you can click on agency, and it lists the Department of Agriculture, which is where you're going to find the National School Lunch Program, and I will, like I said, show that in a minute. But you also have Department of Education, Commerce, Energy, Homeland Security, and this lists the number of benefits here and different programs that they have in each one of those agencies. So this is also a pretty essential database, this one and congress.gov. That's why I have them at the very top of the page for you guys to explore and use to find out your background information, find your policy itself, and find that reliable public data. So I'm going to go back to our main page here with our government websites. So USA.gov, this one is talks about government benefits, grants, and federal aid. It's also pretty user-friendly, so affordable housing, benefits, grants and loan, food assistance. So this is just another government website that's going to kind of be a little bit repetitive from some of the other ones that I've shown already. But whatever works for you. So if you find this one a little bit easier to navigate than some of the other ones, it can be just as handy, and it is a reliable source because it is a .gov source. That is a good way to figure out if you have a credible and reliable source. Is if it is a government-run website, then you know you're on the right track. You're not on some third-party site. So let's go back again. Ooh. All right, so I wanted to show this Homeland Security Digital Library. It has so many different reports in it. This is something new to the library, so it's an actual database that we've had to pay for. It is a government site, but it is a database that is that we've had to get for the library. It has a search box, just like you would find in any regular database. And it also has all this different scrolling thing here about key legislation, school violence. You'll see that, so it has a lot of today's topics and social issues already listed for you right here. So this is a great website for if you're not sure what type of policy that you would like to research and do a policy analysis on. So I find this database handy for when you're in the very start of your research, when you don't even know what policy that you would like to choose. So this will give you some really great ideas about what social issues are out there right now that you think you would like to analyze. All right. Hobby Trust I'm not going to do, but I would advise you to check that out. And then, so I'm going to click on these last two really quick, USA.gov. So this is, again, kind of another regurgitation of some of the other databases I showed you from the government. It's set up similarly. So it gives you this how do I find benefits, find government forms, find a government job, things like this. But you can find links to different policies in here as well, just like the one that I showed you before. It does have a search box up here, and it has all these different drop-down boxes that you can click on and it will come up with some of the same things. Food assistance you see again. So there's lots and lots of resources for you to find something on the policy, either that you've chosen or if you are still in the process of finding a policy. And the last one is the Department of Housing and Urban Development. I've had a lot of students decide to do something about Section 8 housing or some of the other rental assistant programs and stuff like that that the Department of Housing and Urban Development have either recently put into place or have put into place within the last 10 years. So this is a great website for that specifically, because this is just for that government sections, which is the Housing and Urban Development with Secretary Ben Carson. So it's pretty self-explanatory. You have all your different tabs up here, and you can go by state. So if you have something for Texas, you can go state info and click on Texas, and it will, there we go, and it will bring up everything about Texas and any housing programs, home ownership programs, rental help programs here in the state of Texas, which I know a lot of students like to focus in on local things. It's a little more meaningful. Sometimes it can be easier to find resources, and it's not as large of a policy because it's not nationwide. So last but not least, that's that one. So we will go back to here. And these are all of that I have so far. Like I said, I'm constantly adding to here. I think I'm going to add the Department of Agriculture on here because that's one I'm realizing I don't have on here. But these are all the main ones, and if you can't find a policy or some kind of reliable public data on one of these, then maybe we need to rethink about what we are doing for the policy analysis. So always come to see me if you have any questions about how to use these. And next, we are going to do a demo in the databases on how to take all of what you've learned once you've found your government documents and go find your scholarly resources. Okay, everybody, now I'm going to do a demonstration for you guys. And so this means like when you are ready to go into the library databases and find some of your scholarly sources. You're going to be using the Karger and Stowe's model kind of as your backdrop, using some of the different keywords, pulling keywords from that, and using your policy that you've already chosen. So this means you've chosen a policy. Maybe you have or have not found some government documents on it or some reliable public data. Either way is fine, because we can also do that as well. But you are definitely ready to go into the databases and find your academic, scholarly resources. So that will still be on the same tab, finding sources, but you just need to scroll down to databases. And you can also go to databases off of the library website, and that is also off the left-hand corner, and hit databases, and all of our databases are listed from A to Z. But really the main one that you always need to worry about is this Academic Search Complete right here, which is under the A's. So we're going to click on Academic Search Complete. I like Academic Search Complete. It's an EBSCOhost database. It's very user-friendly. As you can see, it's laid out very simply. So you have your search boxes here. It's already set up for advanced searching. And what the best thing about this one is that you can choose databases. So Academic Search Complete is a multidisciplinary database. It's not specific to social work or any other discipline. You can use it to search for different disciplines, and you can add all these different databases. So once you click on Choose Databases, you're going to have a list that pops up that looks like this. Now don't be intimidated if you don't know what a lot of these databases are. Some of them are very self-explanatory, like AgeLine is for aging, so that is a definite social work database, but some of them are a little bit different. So if you're not really sure what something is, go ahead and hover over this little yellow box, and it'll pop up and it'll show you all the subjects, topics, and the different coverage as far as so 1966 to 1977, and then up to current time. So it will do that for each one. And there's a little box for each one. So if you're not really familiar with a lot of databases, maybe take some time and hover over these boxes and familiarize yourself with the different databases that are available to you before you even jump in and start doing a search. But for today's purposes, I'm going to be demoing the National School Lunch Program. I usually do this one. It's a pretty easy one to do. I've had several students do this in the past, and I've helped them with it. It's a pretty friendly one, and usually everybody can get behind, feeding kids. So So for this one, you're always going to want to keep academic search complete clicked, and then you're going to want to think about other databases that would be pertinent to find information on something like the National School Lunch Program. So I would say you'd have to think about things like nutrition, education, healthcare, things like that. So think a moment about what the National School Lunch Program entails. So I like to click on CINAHL always. It's a health and allied health sciences and nursing database, excuse me. And it doesn't seem like it would be a social work database, but because it deals with things like allied health, which would deal with nutrition, it's a great one to click on. It will also give us multifaceted search capabilities once we are in finding sources, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So that's one that I always click. Another one for this one is ERIC, which is the National Education Database. So this is going to be great since we're talking about the National School Lunch Program in schools. I would probably click on the Family Studies abstracts because being part of the National School Lunch Program has to do with different families' economic status and things of that nature. So that's definitely one that you'd want to click on. We always want to click on social work abstracts because that's a standard in the field. And so I always want to give that one a try. Now that you could click on a lot of different ones. Medline is another really big database that gives you that multifaceted search capability, but it can give you a lot of medical jargon, which can be really confusing. So I veer away from it a lot of times unless you have a topic that is specifically medical and healthcare, which this really isn't. Another great one is PsycInfo. But I don't think this one really has this topic that we're doing, this National School Lunch Program. I'm not sure if it would really pertain to that. So I'm just going to go with what I have clicked right now. And you can always go back and add more databases or take databases away. It's very simple to do that. But once you've picked the databases that you'd like to search simultaneously, you go ahead and you click OK. And you're ready to search. So before you start searching, what you need to do is you need to have your policy and what you would like to actually be doing this policy analysis on. So that's going to be the National School Lunch Program. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the top search box. And it already prompts me for that. Always be aware, if you're not super familiar with the databases, to once you start typing, that you can get all of these things. It'll start prompting you for different things, and you can get different synonyms and keywords that you hadn't thought of before. So always be looking up when you're typing in there. So I'm going to click on National School Lunch Program. And now, before you really start doing a search in here, you're going to want to pick out keywords, and you're going to want to pick out synonyms for those keywords. I always say arming yourself with keywords and arming yourself with synonyms to those keywords before you really start. So this is a little bit different than when you're doing regular research for a regular research paper. You're going to be wanting to use the policy analysis model, which in this case is going to be the Carter and Stowe's model. So you're going to want to pull out a bit of information and use those as keywords. So I like to start with maybe social issues, history, unintended consequences, and then you can go into synonyms for that, which would be things like issues, problems. We can also do underpinned values. We could also do goals, successes, impact, effectiveness. So there's a plethora of keywords and synonyms to those keywords that we can plug in and take away to do this kind of searching. So you're going to want to kind of do this in steps, since the analysis is kind of done in steps. So I'm going to start off with just doing history or background. So why don't we try background? And so it gives you background knowledge or prior knowledge, background information. So you can pick any of these. So let's click on background information. And let's go ahead and just do an initial search to see what comes up. So we only get 3 because we don't have a lot of keywords in there. The first thing that we're going to want to do, though, before you do anything and before we start switching out keywords for synonyms, is you're going to want to click on Scholarly Peer-Reviewed Journal. This is a must and it is essential, and so you only get one once you do that. But once you've clicked on this, once you've started a search and you've clicked on this, this will always stay intact no matter what keywords you decide to put in and take out from your search boxes. And then the second thing you're always going to want to do is you have to have it relevant. And standard in social sciences is in the past 10 years, so we're going to want to do 2008 and click Update. which is just going to keep us at the one which is from 2012. But those two should stay intact whether you are playing around with the different keywords in here. So what we're going to do is, instead of background, let's try history and see what comes up with that. So we get 7, and you can see when you're always looking in this current search box that the limiters that we've already put in place, which are scholarly, peer-reviewed, and the publication date, are left intact. So let me see. I think this needs to be changed to 2018, and this should be changed to 2008, and that might change it a little. So now we have 16. And so we have our limiters in place, and we have 16. So you could go through here, you could scroll through and read through these. Best policy when you're reading through and trying to find sources is reading the title and reading the abstract. So say this is one that piques your interest, that might be of use to you in your policy analysis. So we would go ahead and we would click on it. We would see that we have the PDF full text, which means we have full access to this article. So we would go ahead and click on PDF full text, and it would bring up the actual article itself. Now over here to the right, you can do a bunch of things. You can email this article to yourself. You can add it to a folder, which I would recommend. What's really great about this is you're going through and you're searching, you're changing out keywords, and every time you find a useful article that you'd like to save for later to evaluate, to perhaps use with your policy analysis, add it to this folder. And what you're going to need to do to be able to email this folder to yourself is you're going to need to create an EBSCOhost account. You don't automatically have one as a student. All you need to do is click on sign in and then go to create one now, and you can create one. I recommend using your net ID and password the same as you use to log in, because it's going to be the easiest way for you to save all of your citations, save all of your articles, and then go back and see what you've already searched before. So we'll go back. Okay, so once you've created your EBSCOhost account, so then you're free to keep adding to that folder as you see fit, and then once you're done with all of your different searching, you can go ahead and email that folder to yourself, and you'll have all of your documents. Rule of thumb, depending on how many sources that you need, say you need 10 sources, I would go ahead and find 15, because you're probably not going to use every one of those sources once you do your evaluating work. So we're going to go back to the result list here. I'm going to go ahead and show you a few other things quickly before I change out some of the keywords to show you guys how to do that. So if you ever come across this 360 link to full text, this can mean one of two things. It can mean we have access to this article, it's just linked out to the web, or it means that we need to request it through interlibrary loan. It looks like we have full text of this available to us, so that's not a problem. So you have, this is the actual article right here. You can go ahead and download the PDF, and you can save it to that folder. If this screen didn't pop up right here, you would need to click on request this item through interlibrary loan, and you would log in with your net ID and password. There would be a form that would be there, and it would be pre-populated with all of your information, and all you would need to do is hit send request, and that would bring you the document within 24 hours or less to your email, which I've had students, it's happened in 20 minutes or less, depending on time of day that you're doing that searching. So back to our results list, the one other thing that you might see besides PDF full text and 360 full text, if I can find one on here, is linked full text. And I'm not seeing one, but if it says linked full text, it just means we have access to the article. It's just linked out to the web, so it should be no problem for you to go ahead and find that source. Over here is all of our limiters, so you can limit things to geography, gender, age, language, publication, subject, major, heading, but you only have 16 results to work with, so that's not a large number at all, so you should be able to go through and evaluate each one. So let's move along and say, okay, we found stuff on history and background for the National School Lunch Program as far as scholarly resources. Let's try something else. So how about unintended consequences? And so you see it already brings up unintended consequences. So let's go ahead and click on that one and click search. So that only gives us one. And so what this tells me is we need to come up with some synonyms, and we need to use the Boolean operator or. So the Boolean operator and actually narrows down your search. So it's only searching for things that have National School Lunch Program and unintended consequences in it. And that's why we're only getting one search result. But if we use the Boolean operator or inside, you can go ahead and add a few more different synonyms in there, and it will actually broaden your search. So we can take out probably unintended, and we can do consequences or effects or outcomes or impacts, because all of those are synonyms to the word consequence. So we're going to go ahead and click on that and then research again and see what comes up. And so, wow, we get 142 results that way. So this is a great way of using your Boolean operators to expand your search. You're still looking for the unintended consequences or the unintended effects or outcomes or impacts that this program or this policy has had on the people that it was designed to help or impact. And so 142 can be kind of daunting. I mean, it's a good number because you know there's a lot of stuff out there, but you might want to whittle this down a bit. So a great way to whittle this down is to go to Subject Major Heading, click on Show More, and you can look at all of these different subject headings here. And so what a subject major heading is what the author has deemed for each article as the main subjects of that article. So if you want to click on maybe a few, say, food assistance, school health, child nutrition, government programs, and then just click update, it will take away everything that does not have those subjects in there. So now you have 21. So you can go through these just like you were for the history one, the history and background one, and you can pick out things you like. And if you don't find everything you like, you can go over here and you can get rid of all of the ones that you have chosen, and you can go back in there we go. You can go back into the subject major heading and you can click a few others. So you could click on schools, you could click on food preferences, school health services. You can click on as many or as little of these as you like, and it's going to render you a different set of results. They are all going to be from this 121 that you see on your screen now, but it's just a way to look at them in sections. So you're not having to look at all 100 and some at the same time, so it's not as overwhelming. So that's the way to kind of broaden your search. Some of the other keywords that you might find yourself wanting to use as far as your policy analysis for Carger and Stowe's would be, let's see, effectiveness or outcomes or alternatives. So we can do that. So outcomes or benefits or effects. There's also outcomes or effects or impacts or consequences. So you can pick some of these because some of these are overlapping synonyms. So let's go ahead and click on this one because it is the most, and we can click search. And it gives us about the same ones. So my advice is always keep your policy in the very top box and then go through using your policy analysis model and pick out your keywords following the model, and then pick out synonyms like we've done with the outcomes, the effects, impacts, consequences. I think there was also underpinning values was another one. We can pop that one in there really quick to see what comes up. Values. And we don't get any results for that one, but you can also take out the underpinned part and just keep values. And that might, values and beliefs, values and ethics is a great one, so that's another great synonym that pops up right there. And we're not really getting a lot. But this just shows you that, that you need to play around with it, use your keywords and use your synonyms, and you'll eventually come up with plenty of reliable sources as far as your scholarly academic sources.